Hi, true crime fans. All right, this is our third case in our flight. We are pairing the Dylan Rounds case with Red Sangria from the Round Barn. Why barn? Why round? Well, round, obviously, Dylan Rounds, but barn because, oh my gosh, this is a great sangria. I definitely, if you like, especially if you like anything sweet, it's so good. But it is 300 calories for this whole little thing. But it is because it's super, it's a sangria unlike any other. It's bubbly and, oh, it's so good. It is the best. All right, speaking of the best, Dylan Rounds. This is a case you may have heard of. Dylan Rounds is a 19-year-old, seemingly great, perfect kid. In that he wasn't your typical 19-year-old kid. He wasn't chasing skirts or chasing anything, except his dreams. He was chasing his dreams of being a farmer. So it seems a little odd because he was trying to farm in an area that was pretty hard to farm in. But then I found out his grandfather had owned the farm. So he basically bought the farm from his grandfather and really, really loved farming. And it was in a harsh area. It's not like in a very fertile area. And so and everybody said like, oh, that's not really a great thing to do. You shouldn't do that. But he wanted to do it. He kept his grandfather's staff, a man named Don and a man named Jim, these older men, to work the farm with. It is in an area of Utah called near a town named Lucin, which is like sort of they said like a ghost town where a lot of people, maybe meth heads, squatters. That's like the nearest like town that has a name. But he lived in a trailer on this acreage. And when it's shown, there was a number of sources that I followed this case on. When they showed the land, it looks like desert. It really does. I can't believe, I come from farmland in Ohio, near Lake Erie, and very fertile, very fertile. I just can't imagine farming like on the salt beds out there in upper Utah, but I guess you could do it if you want to. And he was having a little he was having some success according to his mother Candace, and Candace has been the one who has been speaking and really getting this out to all the different YouTube channels, speaking to the news, speaking to anyone. So his mom Candace is doing like everything she can. So one of the sources I found was a guy named Heavy D Sparks, spelled heavy with a D, Sparks. He has a channel, a YouTube channel, and it's kind of like the Adventures with Purpose. He is somebody who uses his resources to go out and search for missing people. And he went up in a helicopter in that area, and he said something very interesting. So not only is that area, it's right where northern part of Utah, close to Nevada, and Dylan's family was from Idaho. So it's kind of where they all sort of meet together, I guess. Anyway, the Heavy D, Sparks, mentioned that when they had to get their flight plan to go look at this area, to go, he was going to survey and see what, just at least clear out the idea that there was a body anywhere. It's near a military complex where they have like active dropping of bombs and stuff, out in the middle of nowhere. And there's a very strict airspace. So he had to get permission to fly above Dylan's farm. So out in the middle of nowhere, you have like a military base located in the vicinity, a ghost town with meth heads, and like ranchers, and that's it. It's very desolate and very isolated. So, but how Dylan ended up there was family, like how most of us end up where we go, right? So one of the problems in this case is, like our previous case that took place in the end of February, no one's really been talking about it enough, and when time goes by, missing people. This one took place a little bit sooner, May 28th, but it hasn't gotten, now we're into the end of June. So it's been like a whole month, and his mom is really trying to get information out there. All they have found so far was like strange red flag things. So he spoke with his grandmother on the morning of May 28th. And he spoke, they said, with either his grandmother or his parents each day. One of them would speak to him, not each of them every day. But he did keep in contact with everybody at least once a day. He called his grandma, was speaking to her at 7 in the morning and said, it's going to rain. Rain's coming. I got to cover my sea bags. I got to get out there. So he hung up with her. And that's the last time they heard from him, 7 o'clock on the 28th. Now, I think that's right. Yes. They found his truck. So he was speaking to her from his trailer, which was 5 miles from where they found his truck. His truck was near an area, I don't know if that's where he's farming. There was a big dirt pile there. His truck was 400 yards, so, like over a football field away from this dirt pile, but an area that he was known to work in. But his truck was locked, and he never locked his truck. When they got into his truck, it was pulled up. His truck was also clean, which was weird because in the intervening weekend, it had rained. And you would expect if you drove your truck from the trailer out there that it would have gotten all kinds of, dusty crap on it. And in fact, the wheel wells were with like mud and caked in stuff. But the truck itself was clean. The seat was pulled up really far. And he is tall. That's not normal. And he doesn't lock his car. And if you are from farm country, I'm telling you, farmers do not lock their stuff up. They just don't. They're jumping in and out of cars, in and out of equipment. It's just, you trust people out in the country, not a thing. All right, so, and Dylan's not reported missing. So the people who work with him on the farm, Don and Jim, you'd think, they said, oh, well, we were looking around, but we didn't see anything. We couldn't find him. And you're like, okay, old man, really? Okay. So it was not hearing from him for a couple days that his parents actually started getting upset. They went out there, and he hadn't been seen. They found where his truck was, and then all these strange, like, sort of red flags. Then when people came and looked, they found his boots about 400 yards away from his truck near this big dirt pile. And the dirt pile was searched, and he's not in the dirt pile. But I think when I first heard about this was the first week of June. The docket at Chasing Paper 89, Eric, he on Twitter said something, and I was like, oh, it sounds like, I didn't know the kid worked out there. I thought, typical 19-year-old kid, he takes off his boots and walks into the desert, and then it said it looked like maybe he was on his tummy, and then they lost the tracks. And I was like, did he get bad stuff? I mean, it sounds like he was tripping, right? Because nobody was around him. Well, now that I know that he was out there by himself, now that I know that he was a farmer, now that I know that he spoke with somebody then disappeared, and the fact his mom reported. So he was a kid, and it sounds to me, his mother hasn't said this, and this is just my huge speculation, but she said, like, we know he always wore either a black shirt or a flannel shirt. He only wore these boots. In fact, she has his boots all lined up from when he was a little kid. He only liked one kind of boots and would wear them till there were holes in them, literally, and then would ask for a new pair of the same kind. And then I guess he switched kinds just a couple years ago. But I mean, she kept all of his, that's how much of a thing it was for him. So for his boots to be found and not him, it's a horrible red flag. And I'm like, it sounds like somebody slightly on the spectrum to be very stubborn about, like, I'm going to farm my grandpa's farm. And that's what they're going to do. And they would do it. And I'm going to wear these shoes. Just these shoes. Just these one kind of shoes. I'm only going to wear these clothes. Like, very sort of structured in that way. Sounds a lot like somebody on the spectrum, which also could mean socially he wouldn't maybe read some cues. So this brings us to, so did he have any enemies? Well, no. He's a 19-year-old kid. His mom said he didn't party. He's out in the middle of nowhere. The only social interaction he had recently was, so he had a fight. He was angry with one of the workers that used to work for his grandfather, this Don guy, and he fired him. But Don was still working there, so I don't know if they made up, or that wasn't clear about why Don was still there. That's a red flag to me personally. And there was also an interaction he had with somebody from that ghost towny squatting area, and some guy who was didn't have shoes on, who looked beaten up or bloody, and he told his mom about it, and she said, well, you didn't give him a ride, right? Like, don't get, like, and he's like, no, I didn't. But apparently he did give him a ride and let him use his cell phone. Now, Dylan's missing, his cell phone's missing, and the fob to his truck is missing. But and I think his parents said they broke into his phone by getting another phone and like mirroring it, and it's still on, but they can't track it. His truck was not old enough to have telematics, although they're trying to, I guess, talk to Ford about that to see if they can get anything off movements, but it didn't have GPS stuff on it. This kid was just a good kid doing his business, but it sounded like he wasn't really socially like super aware. I mean, because you're out there isolated, you got to be a little bit more careful. And the last time he was seen, though, the last time he was heard was from his grandmother on the 28th. He had gone into Nevada to, I'm looking for the name of it. It's not Montello. He went to a bar that served like hot food that he could get, a meal. And he went there. They saw him there like the Friday night before. Montello was where he went. So the man who used his helicopter to look for him was saying, so Montello is 27 minutes west to Nevada, and where he gassed up was in Wendover, Nevada, which is the next. Those are Montello and Wendover, Nevada, are the two closest to Dylan Round's farm. And they were saying they noticed when they were in Wendover and when they were like doing things that, and his parents noticed too, that whenever they went to go do something, like do a search, all of a sudden these squatter people, I don't want to say they're meth heads because I don't know what they're doing, but it was weird. It was like they had some sort of network where they would know, and they would all sort of gather around and watch what they were doing, which is weird because they're in the middle of nowhere, right? So we have two social issues going on, right? One, this Don guy who worked for his grandfather. So the young kid comes in, takes over the farm, has a problem with something Don does, and fires him. So was Don ticked off? Did Don feel like, no, this is my place. This is where I belong. This is what I'm doing. F you, little kid. Did he take matters into his own hands? We don't know. Again, this is my speculation. It's a wacko theory. So take that with a grain of salt. We're going to pour just a little bit more out for Dylan, because this is a crazy story. Or does it have something to do with these vagrants, these people, people who are desperate in the middle of nowhere? If they're doing drugs, even if they're not, do they get aggravated? Do they feel like, did Dylan say something? He gave the one guy a ride, but was that guy, he used his phone? Was he scoping out the situation? Did he, we don't know because Dylan's gone. Did he ask him, hey, who you live with out here? Who, like trying to figure out, can we take over this guy's trailer? We don't know. There was a backhoe on the property, because what the guy from the Heavy D Sparks guy said, like, you could definitely like get rid of somebody out here. Oh, and what they were saying, which is kind of scary and very sad, is you'd wait for rain, because it would make the ground, it would cover up and change the grounds. It'd get rid of tracks, change the grounds. If you wanted to get rid of somebody out in the desert, that's what you do. You wait for a rain, which is frightening because it started to rain. He went missing. It really rained the next Sunday, like downpour. So they don't know. It doesn't seem like he drove his truck away from his trailer. They only found his boots. He has no other. He literally has no other shoes, which is why I wonder about the spectrum issue. The Don and the other gym guy, man, I don't know. I'm not law enforcement. I'd be looking at Don pretty hard. I don't know about the guy that he met. I don't know why the guy he met would be mean to him, because he gave him a ride into town. He let him use his phone. I mean, unless there was some coordinated effort by people in that town to do something. So those are the two things. His mother is still asking for help. She is doing interviews, and if anybody knows anything, which, I mean, it was a very isolated area, but could you please talk? Let's amplify this situation and maybe get some attention. I do believe the newest thing was that the FBI now is involved. It was hard because there were 3 states. He was from Idaho. His parents are in Idaho. He's living in Utah, and then he was last seen in Nevada. And like, I'm right on the state line between Ohio and Michigan. So if I make a 911 call, the police in my town even told me, call the police if you can, because the first tower will be in the wrong state. That can happen. So in Dylan's case, it is unclear. You know, it's hard when there's 3 different counties involved. He was last seen in Nevada, but he lives in Utah, but his family's from Idaho, and they're making the calls and trying to get involvement. So hopefully with the FBI involved, we're going to find Dylan. I don't know where he could be. If he was trafficked, see, that's the sad thing. In these cases, when young people are missing, the best cases, they were trafficked, which is horrible that that's the best case scenario. Let's hope they find him. Worst case scenario we know is a shallow grave. Oh, God, his poor mom. Worst case, like, he's exactly the age of my baby. Worst thing that could happen to a mom. So to Candace, his mother, she has a different last name than he does, but we are thinking about you. So the people to call, if you have any information, is, I believe, it's called Box Elder County in Utah. But now that the FBI's, I believe, involved, you can call their number if you have any information. Let's bring Dylan home to his parents. So thank you for listening to that 3rd case on our episode 18. And if you'd like to hear more, please click on the next video, and I'll have the Petito Schmidt case coming up next. Thanks. Bye.